In this video, we're going to be demonstrating how we can set up a very basic scene by creating objects and positioning them in front of our viewport camera so that we can prep for rendering. I'm going to start by opening a new project. I'm going to click Don't Save because I don't need this one. And the scene I want to create is going to be a customized object that's going to act as a stand to position Suzanne on top of. It's also going to need a floor with some walls. So it's like a room where the focus is going to be on a specific object. To start things off, I'm going to delete the default cube with the X key and then select delete. I'm then going to start by adding my floor. So if I hold down Shift and press A, I can locate the mesh objects and I'm going to choose plane. Left click and I've got my plane object. Now right now it's very small. I can scale my plane using the S key. So we're going to scale it out. And another thing that we can do with scaling that we haven't covered yet is we can use numerical values while scaling with the hotkey. For example, I can type in the number 6 while this hotkey is active and it will scale by a value of 6 on each axis. I'm actually going to go a bit higher than that. I'm going to go to a value of 10 and press enter. We now have our plane object that's going to act as the ground or the room. So I'm going to straight away rename this object by coming over to the outliner panel, double left clicking, and we're going to name this as room and press enter. Now you might ask the question why I have decided to create a room from a plane object instead of a cube. And the reason why is because I'm only going to want to create walls on the sides where my camera can see. To do that, we're going to go into edit mode. Now, since we're setting up a scene using all of the tools that we've learned so far here, I want you to see if you can do this ahead of time. I want you to create two walls, one here and one here. The tools that we have used to do so, we've already covered. So just give that a quick go and I'll see you in a sec. Okay. What we need to do is we need to ensure that we are in the correct method of selection, which in this case is going to be edge select. Then we're going to left click to select one of our edges, hold down Shift and left click to select the second, and then we're going to extrude. We can do this either from the tool shelf or using E as our hotkey. So I'm going to press E and extrude. I'm going to lock it to the Z axis by pressing the Z key. And that's going to just bring our wall up to about here and left click. So now we've created two walls that we can view through our camera. So we can select our camera here and we can view our scene. Now at the moment the positioning of the camera isn't quite where it should be, but we're going to come back to that a little bit later on. For now, we're going to go back into objects mode and create our second object, which is going to be the model that Suzanne is going to be sitting on. I'm going to go to the Add menu and I'm going to introduce a cylinder object. Left click to add your cylinder. Next, we're going to scale the cylinder. So we're going to hold down the S key and then we're going to scale it down on the Z axis to about here. Then left click. Let's zoom in to get a better view and we can see at the moment that a part of our cylinder is currently going through our ground plane. I'm just going to hit the G key and just bring it up on the Z axis until it's roughly sitting on top. Next, I want to scale this so that it's a lot bigger. I'm going to hit S and then I'm going to want to scale on the Z plane because I don't want to scale it up on the Z axis when I've just scaled down. Hold down Shift and press C and we'll scale up. We'll scale to about here and then left click to confirm. Now I want to perform some editing for my cylinder, which I'm going to rename as my stand. Let's press enter to confirm the new name. And now let's press the tab key to go into edit mode. This time I'm going to go into face select my top face, and I'm going to scale it down. Then I'm going to hit the I key to create an inset. And I'm going to inset to about here. I'm going to hit the E key to extrude up to about here and left click. Then hit the S key again to scale in. So I've combined several tools here. I've combined scaling with insetting with extruding to create a custom shape that's going to act as the stand of my object. Let's hit the tab key to come out of edit mode, and the next step is going to be to add in our main model, which is going to be our monkey object. Hold down Shift and press A to return to the add menu and then select monkey. Right now it's currently piercing through several other models, so we're going to hit the G key and bring it up on the Z axis. Now if we bring it up, we can see that it's currently resting on the object's chin. Now this doesn't look very natural. I'm going to want it to be rotated so that the face is pointing upwards and that it's resting on the back as well as the front. To do this, I'm going to use the rotate tool. So hit the R key, and then we're going to have to lock it to an axis. Now the axis here is going to be X, and this will allow us to rotate correctly. I can play it by eye, or I can use a numerical value. If we take a look near the header bar of the 3D viewport, you can see how much we're rotating by on the X axis. I'm going to use a numerical value here, so I'm going to use minus 35 degrees because I already know ahead of time that that's the correct rotation to allow Suzanne to sit on top of a flat surface. There's currently a little bit of space, so all we're going to do is hit G, then Y, and bring it down. Now we're almost done. We've got a few things left to do, and I'm going to demonstrate two things that we haven't seen so far. The first is an effect called smooth shading. So at the moment, if we take a look at our stand, you can see all of the individual faces. But I don't want to see all of my faces. I want to have that appear nice and smooth, and I can do that by using the right mouse button, and this will open what is known as the Object Context menu. The first three options here are Shade Smooth, Shade Auto Smooth, and Shade Flat. Currently, we're using flat shading. For this demonstration, I'm going to use Shade Auto Smooth, as it's the option that works best for this type of object. You can now see that the lighting on the model has changed, and we can no longer see the individual faces. The second thing I'm going to demonstrate that we haven't seen so far is the ability to add geometry using a special modifier known as Subdivision Surface. So we've already covered modifiers in this class, and we're going to introduce our third one right now. Go to the Modifiers Properties tab, add modifier, and this time select Subdivision Surface. Left click, and what that will do is it will add geometry around your entire model. It's also going to create curvature where there were sharp edges. We're going to open up this area of the UI so we can get a better look at the Subdivision Surface modifier, and we can see we've got a couple of options here. For the viewport levels, the higher the value, the more geometry is added and the better it looks. So we're going to increase this up to 2, which is the same as for our render. We can still see many of the faces, But rather than increasing the viewport levels too high, we're going to repeat what we did for the stand. Right click and then shade auto smooth, or this time we can just use shade smooth and it should give us the same result. So now we have two objects that are nice and smooth and ready for rendering, apart from one thing: materials. So now we're going to add materials to the plane, the stand and the main model, and I'm going to just rename our main model as Bob. So starting with our room, we're going to go to the materials tab, we're going to add new, and let's just name this as the room material. Let's give it a dark blue colour. So we can create the colour here and we can make it darker using this bar next to the colour wheel. We can't see anything in this method of shading, so we're going to go to our material preview. So we've got our blue material for the room. Next we'll select the stand, select new, and this one is going to be the stand material. Press enter, and now we're going to create a material for the stand. I'm going to want this to be a dark grey, and I'm also going to want it to be metallic. Let's reduce the roughness a bit so it's a little bit shiny. Finally, we've got Bob. Now for Bob, I'm going to apply multiple materials to my main object. This is also going to involve demonstrating another method of selection, and that is the ability to select islands. What I want you to do is I want you to first of all add a new material, and we'll just call this Bob. We're going to give it a base colour, and I think we'll go with a nice orange. And next I want to add a material for the eyes. With the Bob object selected, we're going to hit the tab key and then left click away from the model so that nothing is selected. With the monkey mesh, we actually have 3 islands. We've got the head and then each of the 2 eyes. They're actually separated in terms of their geometry, but you can't see that because the eyes are inside of our model. If I press the L key on my keyboard hovering over the eye, I can select it. I can also select the other eye with the L key and add it to my selection. So now that both my eyes have been selected, I can add a new material, select new. I'm going to name this material as Bob's Eyes, press enter, change the base colour to be a nice bright blue and click assign. And now I've assigned 2 materials to Bob the monkey. Hit tab and we've got pretty much everything in place. There are only 2 things left to do before we can render. The first of which we will do right now, which is to position our camera. If we were to go into our camera's view, we can get a good look of the scene, but at the moment I feel as though we can bring the camera up a little bit. The easiest way to do this is to open up the side panel by pressing the N key. Then we're going to go to the View tab. We have several tabs here within the side panel, and the third of these is the View tab. Left click and there'll be an option under View Lock that's labelled Lock Camera to View. We're going to left click this option, and now when we navigate around our scene, we will be moving our camera as well. So for this, I'm going to hold down Shift, use the middle mouse button and just bring it up slightly. Let's orbit the view to about here and just try and get the right view for our render. Let's zoom in a bit more, and I think that will do. So once we're happy with our camera, we can turn off the camera to view option and then orbit to move out of our camera's view. everything's set up except for the lighting, which we will do so in the next video, where not only will we be creating a new lighting system, but we will be using an add-on to achieve it.